on a second. Let me get this thing situated. Man, like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. Uh, man, share the show, man. Share the show, share the show, share the show, share the show. Peach Brother Chavez, I see you in the building. Share the show. Trying to update the description. Right now it's going down. It's going down. Let me let some people get up in here, man. It's going down. Good evening, good evening. Good evening, one, good evening, all. I don't expect a lot of people to show up, but just bear with me. I have not done this in quite some time. I have actually not set up a live stream and went live in a while. And I was provoked to do this one. Yep, I was provoked. I could have been doing something else, but I was provoked. And I ain't gonna lie. I was called names. I was called a college dropout. Couldn't finish school. What do I know about methodology? I was, yelled at pretty much, disrespected. And I shut up. I didn't try to argue back. I shut up. I let the dude get his off. Now, I wasn't afforded an opportunity to actually properly respond because people were, you know, I don't know if they were trying to diffuse the situation and change the topic. And nobody could actually see the show because it's private right now. And that's cool. That's cool. So here we are. I can't be silenced here. It's the Mossi Warrior Clan channel. I can't be silenced here. Good luck. Good luck trying to shut me up now. So yeah, many of you can see the actual description of the show, right? Many of you was even in the chat room when he was actually going crazy, talking crazy about me, right? See, we got a few more people in the building. Peace to everybody in the building. Just hold on just a second. We're going to get started. It's the college dropout turn. Undisturbed. Yep. Couldn't even finish a test. Was saying so much I couldn't write all of it down. I just knew I was going to be able to go back and pull the video. Then I go over there, I see the video locked. Yep, that's what it is. What up, B Dot? Peace, God. So let's deal with this information, man. Again, like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. It's impromptu. I know nobody was expecting me to be doing anything on a Monday. Usually I haven't done anything in maybe over a month or two. I did want to go live and bring you guys a different style of a presentation. However, I'm here, and this is what we're dealing with today. So we're gonna get into the conspiracy theory behind COVID-19, and we're just gonna deal with the reality of it all. So if you just give me a minute here, I'm gonna share my screen if I still know how to do that. And we're gonna get to cooking. We're gonna get to cooking. Yep. Y'all see the sources right there. Anyway, this is the conspiracy theory behind COVID-19, a response to a degreed researcher. Remember, he's degreed. He's degreed. So again, man, before I just get it cranking, like the show, share the show. That's all I ask. Like the show, share the show. Please, this is important for you to like the show, share the show. It's something about that introduction that I always get my juices flowing when I see it, because I do want to honor those who have laid the foundation for us to follow behind. I do see a couple of my teachers in the chat, so I do want to say peace to the members of the Honor Rock Squad. And it's time to go to war, man. It's time. Let's deal with it. So, the introduction. The purpose of this lesson is to not only stress the importance of knowing and understanding information, but to educate and uphold a scientific stature of demonstrating proper research methodology. In this presentation, we aim to silence the noise that has caused commotion among certain voices in our community. The matter at hand is a serious topic and requires rigorous studying and attention to detail so that it may not only save lives, but help push our community forward in the fight against nature, whom seeks to destroy whatever is in its path. By the time we reach the conclusion, we should all have some takeaways that will help us in our struggles, but most importantly, help us recognize imposters preying on our ignorance. So in our outline, I'm gonna get you just have my introduction, my hypotheses that come behind. We'll talk about what is COVID-19, how did it spread, the infamous PhD student, is COVID-19 man-made, and Marbury's method, and then I'll conclude. And I'm only about 20 slides, so I'm not gonna keep y'all long. It's my hypothesis. So COVID-19 has impacted human lives around the world. Its first impact, as we know, stems from Wuhan, China. The virus originally was downplayed, but once it began to take over China, months later, the world began to take it seriously. Now, many people have hypothesized about the creation of a root of the virus, and some of the belief that the government is behind this ploy. But we have little to no evidence regarding the matter, yet many continue to sell this belief as fact. My guess is some refuse to study because it requires more work than one wants to sacrifice. The others because of false ideologies for viewership. However, both the dangers to the community we service and the culprits who push this agenda serve no purpose and should be totally ignored. So, what is COVID 19? Coronavirus disease 2019, COVID 19, is a disease caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, SARS coronavirus 2, first detected in China in December 2019. In January 2020, state, local, and federal public health agencies investigated the first case of the COVID 19 in Illinois. So, how did the COVID 19 spread? The novel SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus that emerged in the city of Wuhan, China last year has since caused a large-scale COVID-19 epidemic. It spread to more than 70 other countries. It's the product of natural evolution, according to the finding published today in the Journal of Nature Medicine.
Hi, my name's Nick. I'm a PhD student in molecular medicine, and in this piece of content, I'm going to briefly answer if it is possible that coronavirus, or COVID-19, is a man-made virus based on a recent review published in Nature. And that's a highly reputable biology journal, not Trees. You can find the review linked to this content as well as my notes explaining some of the jargon. With that said, let's answer the question in quick order. We can answer the question of if this virus is man-made or not by looking at a few clues. The coronavirus is made up of proteins, just like any other biological thing, and a specific piece of that virus known as a spike protein with a receptor binding domain that is used to attach to a receptor found on human cells, known as angiotensin converting enzyme, or ACE. Once attached, it can affect the cell. That receptor binding domain is made up of a series of amino acids, just like all proteins are made of amino acids. This receptor binding domain is made up of 6 amino acids, of which 5 are different from the first coronavirus to induce panic in the world. Now, I'm telling you all this because it's our first clue. This receptor binding domain has a high affinity for the ACE receptor in human cells, meaning it really likes the receptor and will bind to it often. However, its interaction with the ACE receptor is characterized as not ideal, giving us a clue that it might bind something else better, maybe something non-human. If this were a purposefully created biological weapon, you'd imagine it would be created with an ideal receptor binding domain to be more effective and thereby deadlier. The second clue is in the animals in the Wuhan market, where the virus is believed to have originated. 2 animals in particular, a bat and a pangolin. Bats have a coronavirus of their own that is 96% identical to our coronavirus, but we couldn't have gotten it from bats because the spike protein I mentioned earlier does not attach well to our cells, thereby making viral entry into our cells a no-go. However, pangolins also have a coronavirus, and oddly enough, the pangolin coronavirus does have a similar receptor binding domain. So if these 2 animals were in close contact over and over again, these 2 viruses could have mutated and, in a way, cross-pollinated to form our coronavirus that shares the necessary traits of both to affect humans. This is strong circumstantial evidence. However, there is still one mystery. So these two clues offer evidence that this is not man-made. However, it could have also escaped from a lab. Some of the coronaviruses are studied in biosafety level 2 laboratories, which is not the strictest biosafety we scientists use. And there have been cases where viruses have escaped. It is possible, although unlikely, that this virus could have mutated over and over in a laboratory and then infected or escaped from the lab, causing its spread, which would have otherwise been harmless if it had not mutated in a particular way to make it infectious to humans. However, keep in mind that the virus would have to mutate multiple specific ways, creating a similarity in structure, but also a similarity in receptor binding domain, plus another mutation I did not cover, but is in the review for it to become infectious. So, it is far more likely that already prime viruses, like those in the bat and pangolin, mixed, and then more likely mutations occurred, leading to infectious virus known as COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2. So, is this foolproof evidence? No. However, it is biochemically and genetically backed evidence that creates a strong line of evidence that this virus is not man-made. And if it were, whoever made it sucks at making biological weapons. With that said, I hope this proved informative, and I hope to have the pleasure of speaking with you in the next one. Cheers.
I'd like to thank the silent assassin for that jewel, Big Brother Nahisi. Uh, went and combed through and pulled the video out. However, this was the gentleman that was presented to us by Marbury. However, in Marbury's research, we never really got the proper understanding of what the young PhD attempted or concluded in his argument. You just heard it from his mouth. But let's move forward. So is COVID-19 man-made? It's like beating a dead horse, and I apologize. But since the first reports of novel pneumonia COVID-19 in Wuhan province in China, there's been considerable discussions on the origin and the cause of the virus, SARS-CoV-2, also referred to as H-COVID-19. Infections with SARS-CoV-2 are now widespread, and as of the 11th of March 2020, there was 121,000 cases and have been confirmed in more than 110 countries, with 4,373 deaths. Here we are in April, and those numbers has surged way north, especially the deaths and the number of cases. SARS-CoV-2 is the seventh coronavirus known to infect humans. I'm gonna run that back. SARS-CoV-2 is the seventh coronavirus known to infect humans. SARS-CoV, COVID, and SARS-CoV-2 can cause severe diseases, whereas HKUI, NL63, OC43, and 229E are associated with mild symptoms. Here we review what can be deduced about the origins of SARS-CoV-2 from a comparative analysis of genomic data. We offer a perspective on the notable features of the SARS-CoV-2 genome and discuss scenarios by which they could have arisen. Our analysis clearly shows that SARS-CoV-2 is not a laboratory construct or a purposefully manipulated virus. The analysis of public genome sequence data from SARS-CoV-2 and related viruses found no evidence that the viruses were made in a laboratory or otherwise engineered. By comparing the available genome sequencing data for known coronavirus strands, we can firmly determine that SARS-CoV-2 originated through natural processes, said Kirsten Anderson, a PhD and associate professor of immunology and microbiology at Scripps Research and corresponding author on this paper. In addition to Anderson, the author of this paper, Proximal Origin of SARS-CoV-2, included Robert Gare, Tulane, Edward Holmes, Andrew Rambert, University of Edwin, and Ian Lipkin, Columbia. Furthermore, if genetic manipulation had been performed, one of the several reverse genetic symptoms available for beta coronaviruses would probably have been used in I-9. However, the genetic data irrefutably shows that SARS-CoV-2 is not derived from any previously used virus backbone. All right. Instead, we propose two scenarios that can plausibly explain the origin of SARS-CoV-2: natural selection in an animal host before zoonotic transfer, and a natural selection in humans following the zoonotic transfer. We can also discuss whether selections during passage could have been given rise to SARS-CoV-2, still from the same source. All right, so it's COVID-19 man-made, continued. So here's the natural selection in the animal host zoonotic transfer. As many early cases of COVID-19 were linked to the human market in Wuhan, it is possible that an animal source was present at this location. Given the similarity of SARS-CoV-2 to bat SARS-CoV-like coronavirus 2, it is likely that bats serve as a reservoir host for its progenitor. Although RATG13 sample from Rhinopolis Athens Bat 1 is 96% identical overall to SARS-CoV-2, its spike diverges in the RBD, which suggests that it may not bind efficiently to human ACE2. This was part of the manipulating factor of Reggie's original argument, was he was trying to hang his hat on that last little line. However, natural selection in humans follows zoonotic transfer. It is possible that a progenitor of SARS-CoV-2 jumped into humans, acquiring the genomic features described above through adaptation during undetected human-to-human transmission. Once required, these adaptations would enable the pandemic to take off and produce a sufficiently large cluster of cases to trigger the surveillance system that detected it. I want to go back to the point earlier about Reggie trying to manipulate those slides that was in that YouTube video that he acted like he didn't pay attention to all the way through the end, because he was using those little ACE, RBD, and so on and so forth, but was never fully explaining those to us, the listening audience, so that he can draw up on his own conclusion to sell us his idea of what he would consider a manipulation. Selection during passages. This is part 3 of that. Basic research involving passage of bat SARS-CoV-like coronavirus in cell culture and or animal models have been ongoing for many years in biosafety level 2 laboratories, which was said in the video, across the world. And there are documented instances of laboratory escapes of SARS-CoV-2. We must therefore examine the possibility of an inadvertent laboratory release of SARS-CoV-2. That doesn't rule it out. However, we shouldn't hang our hats just on an assumption when more evidence is required in the field. Remember, this research is ongoing. Now, if the SARS-CoV-2 in humans in its current pathogenic form from an animal source, it raises the probability of the future outbreaks at the pathogenic strand of the virus could still be circulating in the animal population and might once again jump into humans. The chances are lower of a non-pathogenic coronavirus entering the human population and then evolving properties similar to SARS-CoV-2. Whichever the two scenarios is most likely, the researchers reiterated that since we observed all notable SARS-CoV-2 features, including the optimized RBD and the polyobasic cleavage site in relations to coronavirus in nature, we do not believe that any type of laboratory-based scenario is plausible. Josie Golden, a PhD epidemics led at UK-based Wellcome Trust, who isn't on one of the paper's authors, said the findings by Anderson and colleagues are crucially important to bring an evidence-based view to the rumors that have been circulating about the origins of the virus SARS-CoV-2 causing COVID-19. Golden noted that conclude that the virus is the product of natural evolution and in any speculation about deliberate genetic engineering. Marbury's method. Marbury argued on two separate occasions that COVID-19 was made in a laboratory and spread throughout the world as some potential government conspiracy. This conspiracy that has been written by the psychics like Kuntz and Brown. In Brown's work, End of Days, she predicted that Wuhan virus would spread in the year of 2020. Her book was written in 2008. She would later pass away, but in that screenshot Reggie showed, because he did not read the book, he professes the conspiracies to uphold some truths in them. On his second occasion, he doubled down on the lab and drew his own conclusion, disregarding A, his young PhD's conclusion, and the article's conclusion regarding the creation of the disease. He argued for hours, only to continue to repeat himself and disregard the entire source's conclusions. Marber's degree is not in virology, biology, or any other scientific endeavor. However, he touts himself as an authority on the subject. But even in his own self-righteous attempts to slander others who display a proper research methodology, failed to meet the mark by, by scientific field not once, but twice. Conclusion. As scientists continue to dig deeper into the origins of the COVID-19, we must remain patient and continue to collect all the data regarding this pandemic. Jumping the gun, creating conspiracies, and drawing faulty conclusions should never be allowed in our community. Based on the available data, COVID-19 cannot be man-made, and in order for it to be man-made, there would have they would have had samples of the virus long ago. This argument was presented by a pseudo conspiracy theorist was faulty from jump, as they dismissed all the evidence and manipulated the minds of many only to further their agenda against the white man or the government. This type of behavior is a detriment at times, and where the spread of this disease has taken the lives of many and infected even more. We must have a strict sense of discernment and be able to be honest with one another regarding the origins and the effectiveness of the SARS-CoV-2. Here are my sources.
How do you make your ancestors confused? If they paid a fair price, what did they take? They took everything else.
History is a clock that people use to tell the political and cultural time of day. It is also a compass that people use to find themselves on the map of geography. History tells of people where they have been, what they have been, where they are, what they are.
This concludes my presentation. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. I do see that there was a spike in numbers and some people just arrived to the actual show late. This was not a long presentation. However, you can go back and review this information and be done with it very quickly. I do want to say this, in all due respect, we should all take this fight very seriously. We shouldn't fear it, but we should understand it. We are at a moment in a time in history where we can be on the right side of things, and when history is written by us, we're able to tell it from our perspective and not others. Being a pseudo on this matter should not be welcomed by anyone, as it can cost people their lives. I just had a friend tell me today that lives in California at their job. 3 people are infected. They all have kids, and they can't even be around their kids. Think about that for a second. This is real life. people are being, are catching this virus. Some are transitioning. Others are going into state of shock. They having a quarantine for long periods of time. There are those that are experiencing critical respiratory issues, constant diarrhea, all kinds of behavioral changes and things of that nature going on along with this virus. We should not play games here. We should be working within ourselves to also help find a solution, get in the fight, and stop running away from it with beliefs. The next time, Brother Marbury, you disrespect me, you need to take a good look at yourself. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. Spears are flying, pseudos are crying.